Hello, everyone. My name is Alice Chung, and I'm with Genentech. I'm currently a medical insights lead in the Department of Strategic Analytics and Intelligence group. I'm very passionate to have the opportunity to talk about this topic. I've had a lot of experiences working with NLP efforts in the past, small scales, large scale. So I just want to be able to share a little bit of my lessons learned with those of you that are more in the technical realm. And I also know that there are audiences here that may not be very technical in nature, so hopefully this could be also helpful to you. Please note that this particular presentation represents my opinion and does not necessarily represent the view of Genentech. During today's talk, I want to provide a little bit of my learnings in some of these areas. First, talk a little bit more about the business value of information gathering involving unstructured data. Of course, NLP is the core capabilities of automating all this unstructured data. Second, I want to talk about trust in AI. These are findings from surveys and publications. So I want to share a little bit more of what it's being published, as some of you probably also know about this. Third, I want to talk a little bit more about challenges associated with unstructured data. And lastly, I want to talk about lessons learned with the fit for purpose NLP capability approach to deliver the greatest impact. Please note, as much as we're talking about NLP, I think a lot of these learnings and observations in general are applicable to any new technology or any emerging technology use, um, development, as well as pilot. So please keep that in mind, as I think a lot of those learnings are applicable. With that, let's talk a little bit more about the business values associated with collecting unstructured data. A lot of times, a lot of this unstructured data are collected depending on what your specific needs are. You could have customer needs or business needs. It really anchored on five high level key areas. First, to really enhance some of the experience or improve business outcomes depending on your business needs. Second is to discover unmet needs, especially in healthcare. A lot of the unstructured data sets comes with problems or treatments that just haven't been really solved for, and it's being uncovered through unstructured data sets because it explains the why and the context. Third, a lot of this information of unstructured data sets in healthcare helps you make real-time decisions. Once you automate it, you can also perform objective and trend analysis in the fourth bucket here, for customer analysis, for disease related analysis, or for your business analysis, depending on what information you're trying to uh, automate through NLP. And last one is to reduce costs and efficiencies, as unstructured data sets to be able to understand what's going on is very manual and time intensive. If you don't have any automations. Now, specifically around the benefits of deploying the automated NLP capabilities, we talk a little bit about speed. We talk a little bit more about a lot of healthcare data sets are unstructured. So NLP is the core capabilities to really help automate some of this ability to be able to streamline and also provide greater consistencies of triangulating a lot of free text or unstructured healthcare data sets with greater quality as well as greater granularities so that you can see the issues, you can spot the trends. And a lot of this information that comes with unstructured data sets can also help you develop your internal institution knowledge as well. You can have processes, you can have operations, as well as learnings that comes from a lot of this very rich unstructured data sets. And the last piece I want to be able to highlight here on the benefits is that a lot of this unstructured data sets, as you think about it, could also be platform agnostic. There's no preferences, at least in my opinion, around in-house versus external. You have to figure out your specific needs and then figure out what makes the most sense for you, because there are pros and cons in each of the decisions you've made. Now, the reality around unstructured data, as you know, is that data doesn't give you insights. it gives you data that gives you clues into possible insights. We always talked about unstructured data sets can give us actionable insights, but many times when you specifically ask people, when you spot a trend, are you going to do anything about it? Do you know what you're going to do about it? And it varies. Just like, when fake news are trending high, you don't take actions on fake news. So you almost have to kind of know what you're looking for a little bit in order to really figure out what this unstructured data sets with NLP capabilities automated are really telling you. Unstructured data sets, what can it provide? A lot of times we're seeing the initial versions of NLP is really trying to churn through a lot of this unstructured data sets, connecting the dots together. But in reality, to get to actions, which a lot of these unstructured data sets have, you need to apply knowledge. In healthcare, the knowledge could be very specific to a specific therapeutic area, specific problem, specific data set, specific context. Those are all the knowledges you want to be able to apply in order to get to a greater level of insights that you can figure out how to action upon. Now, basic expectations when we as a user or when your users are trying to leverage NLP capabilities, looking at a lot of free text data sets, what are they expecting? Well, first, as you know, if you have a lot of experiences working through it, medical scientific data sets, especially in healthcare, requires greater rigor, specificity, and accuracy. As the audiences are clinicians, scientists, and researchers, so their expectations and knowledge around data is going to be much more higher than normally it is, right? Because they want to be able to make the decision there. From there, it's actually understanding the trust dynamics between your medical or healthcare artificial intelligence NLP, as well as your healthcare experts and users, what they need for decision making. Because sometimes decision making could be used for diagnosing, sometimes it could be used to design clinical trials, protocols, or any scientific content, right, to support any treatment decisions. So, with that kind of outcome, data also comes with its biases and strengths and limitations. So, in order to understand what will work for the end users and for the healthcare experts, understanding this dynamic and have the right level of transparency will really make sure along the way that AI or NLP output can be considered trustworthy, that it's reliable and used. And of course, the expectations of new technology uses, we always say, oh, it's going to get better over time, but there are sometimes certain levels of basic level of accuracy that's expected in order for greater adoptions and use. Switching gear a little bit to talk about, can we trust AI? Here's a recent survey that I came across. This survey is from KPMG from 2022. So it's relatively recent, and we've seen a lot of explosions around AI. Now, this one is not specifically for NLP, but this is specifically in AI in comparison across different countries, trust in using AI. You see, India, China, they're kind of high up there. United States, 40%. So the first time when I saw this particular survey results, I found it interesting because United States, we have a lot of great models, inventions. I was expecting at least the percentages will be higher, but in fact, it's actually a bit lower. So that was one interesting component that I want to highlight. The trust in AI, especially in healthcare, what happens. Then, the beginning of this year, I also came across this particular article from the authors here. It's artificial intelligence and human trust in healthcare, focus on clinicians. One of the figures that they have here, which I've referenced here, is very helpful. You can take a look at this particular graph. It has three columns here. On the left hand side, it talks about factors influencing trust in artificial intelligence. In our specific case in NLP, this is also very applicable because some of this complex algorithm in unstructured data sets comes with much more complexity, at least in my opinion, versus a lot of the structured data sets that it has. So if you think about the factors that goes into to make it more trustworthy, you have a lot of these factors from algorithms, data sensitivity, cognitive bias, the need to have more subject knowledge, and the role artificial intelligence or NLP, machine learning plays in this case is going to be much more complex. And then in the middle column here, you'll see there are ways to improve trust in artificial intelligence or NLP, um, in this regard, right? Transparency, robustness, fairness, which then will help optimize the trust level on the right hand side. Slowly and gradually. So I found this very useful as a framework to consider, especially in unstructured data sets utilizing NLP. How do we continue to make these elements of trust much more robust? Some challenges here you probably have also experienced. NLP specifically, let me build this out. Data, right? We talk about trust, we talk about survey results, but really a lot of your unstructured data generation requires data, and your data could come with biases, too much data, too little data, too dirty data, or inefficiency that makes it very hard to get to accuracy and precision. So that's one piece of it. And then the second component of it is interpretations of curations of data. Sometimes it's manual, sometimes you don't have analytic team support, sometimes you don't have domain expertise. So see, the technology is there, but you need some more approach and effectiveness to get to that, which is going to be important. And then from there, go back to usefulness of the information, how much is good enough to really figure out what actions to take, and also how much is good enough to be able to decipher versus I still need more data, because sometimes people just don't have the confidence that small number of data sometimes in certain contexts is actually good. And then last part is the decision making and action coming from all the unstructured data sets automated through NLP. So I want to bring this to your attention here because this is a very uh, commonly challenges that, looking at unstructured data sets, automating unstructured data sets through NLP encounters. And when you encounter those, you probably feel like this, or you feel like this, you needed help. And in some of my past experiences, you get frustrated, and then you kind of, figure out what to do, and you go through the cycles of emotions until you figure out what the reality is versus the reality, uh, realizing what actions you can take to get to a more commonplace and a path forward. So don't be don't be frustrated if you go through this cycle, because all of us went through this cycle as well, just in different pace. Now, switching over to one of the last topic that I want to talk about, which is how do we really figure out a fit for purpose to deliver the greatest impact for NLP capability in healthcare. I think, as mentioned before, unstructured data sets' biggest value is to support us to understand the why and the context behind medical needs, healthcare needs, right? And so the strong knowledge, whether it's business knowledge or medical context or healthcare context, really key to enable an NLP capabilities to get to the next level, so that whatever it turns and it produces actually makes sense to what you expected it to produce, and then you can trust it. The softer side of this is also bringing everybody in the journey, an inclusive approach, and also understand the diversity of thoughts. Earlier, we talked about a lot of these users are going to be clinicians, researchers, and scientists, right? They have certain levels of expectations. Healthcare experts also have certain level of expectations if they have to utilize some of this information, for example, EMR, to be able to make decisions. So bringing them along in the journey of developing, informing, testing will be helpful, because that builds a level of transparency so that they understand what is the machine doing in the background so they can actually provide the right feedback along the way to make it better. Now, NLP also requires strong processes and operations to get it integrated. A lot of these unstructured data sets are collected in different parts, probably in your organization, talking to your customers, or coming from EMR data, or even external data sets. What does the process look like to incorporate this is going to be key into making sure you can really get the best out of the information that it's automating. Um, Data issues we talked about, there are systems as well as non-system limitations. There is the standardization, categorization. The data itself requires a lot more time to get through it. And also the accuracy of data and the associated context that comes with imperfect data sets and biases will also need to be taken into considerations. And to think about how do you make them better, I think training will work. They could be automated unsupervised training or supervised training, depending on what works for your team. And I think you can also leverage other libraries or external data sets to help answer the questions that you have um, to make your NLP capability much more robust. Now, keep in mind, uh, in the healthcare spaces, privacy, bias, accountability, transparency, and also reliability of the data sets and what NLP is producing is important. So, understand how to build that into your development will be key. And lastly, the total cost of ownership for the NLP capability development, it's actually a bit harder to quantify initially because it takes time to really get to a point to really utilizing it, right? So the faster you can get through the journey, the better it is for you to quantify the benefits of it. Now let's bring it all together. We talked about kind of leveraging NLP or any new technology to understand your customer and business needs. We talked about integrations of people, mindset, and processes as some of the foundations. We talked about a lot of data needs, data trust, and use of NLP. And a lot of this then builds confidence of leveraging the output of what NLP is producing that allows you to help your organization to measure the needed impact that it can bring. And I just want to leave you with this quote before we close for Q&A is that the use of AI, NLP, and any new technology is that new technology is not good or evil in and of itself. It's all about how people choose to use it. So understanding limitations, communicate fairly, setting the right expectation is the best and effective way to bring new technology, including NLP, which is constantly evolving, to your users much more effectively. So thank you for listening. And now I would like to open up for Q&A.